everyone, so we're going to continue here with some more information about ecosystem ecology, talking a little bit about biomass. So when we're talking about biomass, we're talking about all of the living tissue in a community or in an ecosystem. So when I say living tissue, I'm going to be thinking about plants, any animals that live there, decomposers, all of those things should take part in this ecosystem's biomass, or a trophic level's biomass, if we're talking about a smaller portion here. So in general, the more organisms that are there, the greater biomass there are. So we know that our primary producers, this is going to have the most biomass, and we're going to decrease that as we move up in our trophic levels, because we know each time we go up, we're going to be losing some energy. Only 10% of that energy is going to be transferred to each trophic level. So if we see here, we see our primary producers have 1,000,000 kilograms of biomass. Our herbivores are only going to have 100,000 kilograms. Our lower level carnivores, our shrimp here, is only going to have 10,000 kilograms. Our mid-level carnivores are only going to have 1,000, and our top carnivores are only going to have 100. So as we move up, we're decreasing in energy, which means we can't support as many living organisms. So we're also going to decrease in that biomass that we see. So if we take a look at some of our major trophic levels that we're going to see here, remember these words are going to keep coming up. Producers is our top level. We're getting our energy from the sun. So anything that can photosynthesize or anything that can chemosynthesize is going to be considered in that producer group. Our herbivores is, again, we're getting our energy source directly from our producers. Our primary carnivores might be our herbivores. Getting our energy from our herbivores here. Remember, they eat meat. Our secondary carnivores might get their energy from their primary carnivores or any lower animals there. Our omnivores, we're going to see, get energy from multiple trophic levels, like our herbivores and our primary, and maybe even our secondary carnivores here. And then our last level here, our last level of our trophic, is going to be our detritivores, or our decomposers, which is going to take that energy from dead wastes and dead organisms as well. So let's talk a little bit about this energy transfer here. So each time an organism eats another organism, some sort of energy transfer is going to occur. So whether that be through herbivores to carnivores, from herbivores getting their energy from producers. Anytime something is eaten, we can also see an energy transfer, but we can also see that with our photosynthesis as well. That energy from the sun is being transferred to the plants and being used to make energy. So this transfer of energy is going to be traced by studying food chains, food webs, and our different trophic levels here. So when we're looking at all of these things, we can see that transfer of energy. Remember, when we were taking a look at our food chains and our food webs, that energy transfer was signaled by the arrow moving from what was being eaten to what was eating it, because we know that energy was moving from the organism that was being eaten to the organism that is eating it. Though that energy isn't always perfectly efficient, which is why we can see our energy pyramid being a really good representation of how energy moves in an ecosystem. So each layer of our pyramid is going to represent one trophic level. Our producers are going to form our base, because we know that they contain the most energy because they're able to make their own energy using photosynthesis from the sun. And the pyramid is going to become smaller towards the top, where less energy is available. So remember that tens rule. Each time we go up a trophic level, only 10% of that energy is going to be transferred to the next level there. So it's going to become very important as we go up those levels. Another thing we're going to expect to see as we go up those levels are tertiary consumers. There's going to be a lot less organisms in that level because it requires so much energy to allow those organisms to live. They have to go through that loss of energy multiple times, where in our primary consumers, we might see a lot more of them, something like insects and mice and things like that, because they are not going to be losing as much energy as our tertiary consumers. So let's take a look here. Our producers is going to have the most energy at the bottom, which is why their portion is the largest here. And as we go up, we can see this energy is being transferred through our levels. But again, that energy loss is happening. And remember that energy loss comes from the release of heat during cellular respiration. So again, if we start here, say we have 1,000 kilograms of producers, going up our next level, we might only have 100. Going up our next level, we might only have 10. And at our top level, we might only have 1 kilogram left for that organism to get energy from. So how the energy loss affects this ecosystem: decreasing amounts of energy in each trophic level is going to affect that organism. Like I said, we're going to see a much lower number of organisms in each level. So obviously we're going to see a massive amount of plants, but when we go to our primary consumers, we're going to see a less number of organisms in that trophic level. So energy loss limits the number of trophic levels in an ecosystem. So if we don't have a lot of producers to begin with, you're probably not going to see any of those higher level consumers in that area either, because we don't have the producers to support that ecosystem. So let's take a look at our tens rule here. So we know each time we go up, we're going to see heat loss that we talked about in our pyramid. We're also going to see that 10% decreasing in each level. So again, here's 10,000, 1,000, 100 to 10. So during the energy transfer from one trophic level to the next, only about 10% of the energy is going to be stored as flesh in our animals. So only 10% of that energy is going to be stored from one to the each. So the remaining is going to be lost to respiration or lost to incomplete digestion of our trophic levels here. So that's going to be our tens rule. Just remembering that 10% of each level as we move up is being transferred. And a lot of that energy is going to be lost in our ecosystem. So if we don't have the producers to support our tertiary consumers, we're not going to see those tertiary consumers surviving in this ecosystem. So that is where we're going to stop for today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.